The FM's message was very heartening. The key points he made on collaboration, consolidation, GST, IBC, the new income tax regulations, and partnership with industry reassure us that business reforms are high on the agenda. I thank him for his kind words, and all of us wish him a speedy recovery. So I spent, most part of from May 2017 to today, immersed in a 360-degree perspective of India, from government to governance, from worldview to district perspective, and every geography in between, from politics to bureaucracy to judiciary, from manufacturing to agriculture to services, from marketplaces to supply chains, from macro to micro economics, theorized and applied, from sustainability to inclusivity to diversity. The horizons of industry have never been as boundless. Who are the gainers, the losers, the challengers, the changers? Witnessing the advent of a single unifying tax across sectors and states, the GST was historic in its unveiling, but turbulent in the initial years. But it has the huge potential to move GDP and tax collection upwards. In short, the multiplicity of tasks, issues, and policies for India, including the national and at the state level, are like a Rubik's Cube of where all the colored squares need to align for perfection. And I think the government has the vision, the passion, and they're certainly on a mission to make this alignment happen. CII too is an institution that aligns all the drivers of development in this agenda. It leads industry's role in development in partnership with all stakeholders. Such an organization to converge and strategize the efforts is so important for this country. But the real task is to get the economy growing at 8%. Why? There are, the compelling reasons, but the most compelling is the fact that we have approximately 8 million young Indians a year who join the workforce, and they need jobs. We have another 2 million that need to be reskilled and retrained again for new jobs. There are 225 million Indians that live on 150 rupees a day, and they need housing, they need food, health, education. And a new challenge is also an aging India, and this needs our attention too. So a sluggish economy is a peril to our democracy and peace, apart from the fact that we do need prosperity for our nation. We're the world's youngest nation, and right now we're the fastest growing also, the fastest growing economy. But we must ensure that each one of these youngsters looking for jobs is educated, skilled, and finds livelihood options. We can collectively move the needle to create 600 million jobs in the formal sector and another 200 million jobs in the informal sector over this decade. But for this to happen, we need to build a better India. But what's the cost of building a better India? How much is this going to cost, and where are we going to get the money from? So the government is planning to spend 5 trillion rupees on infrastructure in this financial year. For the rural economy, they're actually allocating 14.3 trillion rupees across multiple areas. In education, they're looking for scaling and skilling. In Ayushman Bharat, the health protection scheme, another huge benefit, 500 million underserved Indians will now have access to healthcare. All this spending envisages a social sector expenditure of almost 2 trillion rupees. And the government will and should continue to spend on defense, poverty alleviation, cities, panchayats, and so much more as per our annual budgetary allocation. But what about the revenue for all this? How much revenue do we actually earn from direct and indirect sources? It works out to approximately 19 trillion rupees. And that's just not enough to meet the needs of building a better India. As you can see, there's a widening chasm between what the government has and what it needs to spend. Fundamentally, not enough is being spent on capital accretion. So, can we afford to develop? The gap must ultimately be filled by somebody, and I think that somebody is really industry. Indian industry accounts for 85% of India's GDP, and it needs to step up to build India. For an industry sector that syncs with the needs of the country, corporate India has 5 key imperatives ahead, and these are reflected in our theme of a responsible, inclusive, and India ahead. First, the top priority has to be doing business ethically and transparently. We can't have scams. We can, doing business responsibly is critical to the success of industry. Each enterprise must understand that the larger impact of its behavior on industry as a whole. We want regulatory framework where the compliance is simple and cost effective. To do that, we need to action the highest norms of corporate governance and comply with it in letter and spirit. It's absolutely imperative that we retain credibility both in society and to build the sustainability of our own industries. 2, we have to be competitive, and we must remain ahead. Our success will come from continuous improvement in productivity and efficiency. Let me tell you, the days of protectionism, you all know, are gone, and industry must stand strong. And in this, a corollary to that is quality, TQM, TPM, lean management. So, and all of you in this audience knows it, you follow it, but just remember, a large portion of Indian business have never heard this, and they continue to do business with high costs and are not able to scale up. Moving on to another corollary of competitiveness is R&D. Indian industry spends less than 0.3% of our GDP on research. How will we match the demands of disruptive technology? How will we stay ahead of the curve through innovation? In sectors where we actually invest in R&D, industry does well, be it automotive or pharma. But we remain at the bottom of the innovation ladder, and other countries, they have millions of patents, resident patents. So I call upon the large and small companies to set aside a defined percentage of their profits towards innovation, towards design and R&D. 3, moving on, global integration. Indian enterprises simply don't meet the tight time schedules, the low logistics costs, and the standards that global value chains demand today. Industry has to look outwards to international markets and drive strategies to access them. There are Indian companies in the remotest parts of the world. In the US, for instance, we've given 113,000 jobs and work in the community. In UK, we're the fastest growing investor. In Africa, we're known for our long-term vision and partnership. We can be everywhere. We can address markets across the world and bring gains for ourselves and for our country. 4, social responsibility. First, I congratulate you all. I think you've all embraced and taken the message of CSR so widely across your country, across your company. But we need to engage stronger and deeper. And that's one message that I've been, working with CII through our foundation, that we are consolidating everything you do because we need to amplify it for industry. And I can't tell you, working with the community, with society, with the less privileged sections of society is so important. And women parity, if I can leave this, being the first woman president, we have to say that all of you will embrace in your boardrooms, in your practices for recruitment, that you will be more equitable to women. And I think this is a strong message of electing me as the first president. And so I see only the women clapping. So this is good for society, it's good for business, and it's good for the country. Climate change is again part of sustainability, and it's really upon us. We need to do more to reduce our water footprint, to become more energy efficient, lower our emissions, and ensure a clean and green environment. As industry, sustainable development should be integral to our business. Later today, we will, the President's Award, we will honor a gentleman who actually pioneered sustainability in India, and I think this is an important message. 5, it is time. It really, I can't tell you how important this point 5 is, because every time every one of us in CII has gone and met the government or met anybody, they said, when are you going to invest? And that is it. It is time for us to start investing. Corporates talk about low capacity and utilization, and because of low demand. So I see the context changing now. It's time for us to take some risk and build capacity. Remember the high growth in 2003, 2008 that took us that distance. We have to replicate the success. For our friends from overseas industries, we urge you to think of investing in India, investing in democracy, investing in the huge present and the future opportunity. I know our systems can sometimes be frustrating and challenging, but patience is a virtue when it comes to an India strategy. Today, most large multinationals have actually situated their research and development, design development here in India, but this is the time that they can actually put in manufacturing roots, put large facilities here producing for the world from India. At this time of global uncertainty, there's one reality. While some countries are building barriers, India is building bridges. So I emphasize again that industry is keen to contribute to development, and we seek a conducive environment. The government, no doubt, is doing its part through bold and revolutionary reforms ushered in over the past few years. With these new policies, our hopes have actually risen, and we want more. We want more things to happen. Imagine just 1.7% of Indians are in the tax net. GST has seen huge success, but a lower tax can actually, widen, can similarly widen our tax base tremendously. Yes, we appreciate it was an industry win when 99% of corporate India today is now paying 25% tax. But we have to move the envelope more. And CII has strongly recommended for an 18% uniform tax, remove all the grandfathering of exemptions. And actually this will turn out much larger net positive for the government. Next, the government has made major impact on deregulation of petrol prices and the allocation of natural resources. We're a resource-rich country, and we need to leverage best what we have. Government has to ensure the allocation of power, water, spectrum, minerals, and other resources that are distributed efficiently and transparently. This needs right pricing and the right usage, and this can deliver huge gains and can be a key multiplier. The key area of reforms is labor that I'd like to move on to. Government has brought in fixed term employment, and CII played a large part in that. A huge new step this huge new step will bring flexibility in hiring workers in the formal sector and create millions of new jobs. So can we look for the next round of deregulation in the labor law regime that will really unfetter the job market and add to social security? My next step that I recommend for the government is that industry expects, industry expects stability of policy from the government. We value the assurance of a red carpet, but we cannot be under the fear that it can be pulled out from us at any moment. While on that track, the NPA resolution and IBC is welcome, but we must ensure that companies at the edge of solvency or those that have securitized receivables are not pushed over the edge. So ease of doing business has been such a success so far, reaching the 100th rank in the world, but it must move to the next level, and permissions and clearances, including at the state level, have to be quicker. 5, the judicial, electoral and administrative reforms are the need of the hour. We have 30 million cases pending before our courts. We have to make quick decisions that enable the country to move forward. But more than anything, our judges need to be equipped with a new set of technical skills to take complex decisions. How can we build up their competence? Electoral funding is the root cause of corruption. Are electoral bonds the answer? Is there a better way? Is there a case for government providing funds for candidates? All these have to be debated. So regulation in India needs the right talent and knowledge, and only then can we have better regulators working effectively for us. And in this changing context where technology, laws, global dimensions are shifting every day, we need to have informed regulators. So the private sector can be tapped for expertise. Look at what Aadhaar did, look at GST, look across the board. We can actually recommend lateral entrants to come to this. And the last thing that I would like the government actually to work on is really to talk about projects. Why is the government investing in roads and ports and airports? When we talk about the cost of building India, this is something that we can participate in more. We have to start, the government has to start letting go and start privatizing more and more. This is something that the PPP model has to be pushed much further in the coming few years for us to build a better India. So there are multiple tasks, and we know that industry will anticipate and manage this risk, and we have to show the world that we can grow fast, we can grow ethically, we can grow transparently. And let me tell you, at the end of the day, whenever you need to think, we don't have to go very far to realize our destiny. In building this great city of Delhi, at Rasina Hill, there's a pillar. I wonder if you all know. It's called the Jaipur pillar. And on that, there's a fabulous inscription, and it stands tall. The inspiring message says, in thought faith, in word wisdom, in life service, so may India be great. And this is a modification of what Lutyens really wanted to say when he was building this great city. Endow your thought with faith, your deed with courage, your life with sacrifice, so that all may know the greatness of India. Thank you very much.